Welcome to Hidden Coin Digest, where ordinary pocket change reveals extraordinary stories hidden in plain sight. Before you spend another quarter today, I want you to stop for just a few seconds and look at the date. It may seem like a simple habit, something almost everyone ignores. But that tiny date could completely change the way you look at your pocket change forever. Imagine walking into a grocery store somewhere in America. You pay for your groceries. The cashier counts your change and places several coins into your hand. Without thinking, you slip them into your pocket and walk away. Now imagine that one of those quarters carries the date 1991. To almost everyone, it's nothing more than another 25-cent coin. It buys a snack. Pays for parking, drops into a vending machine, disappears into a tip jar. And continues its journey without anyone ever taking a second look. But experienced coin collectors see something completely different. They don't just see money. They see history. They see craftsmanship. They see the possibility that an ordinary-looking coin could hold fascinating secrets hidden for decades. That is exactly why the 1991 Washington quarter continues attracting the attention of collectors across the United States. When these quarters first entered circulation in 1991, America looked very different. Millions of these coins left the United States Mint and immediately entered everyday life. They passed through restaurants, movie theaters, gas stations, shopping malls, banks, airports, arcades, and countless cash registers across the country. Every day they traveled from one pocket to another, from one city to another. Sometimes crossing thousands of miles without anyone ever wondering where they had been. Every coin began its journey looking exactly the same. Bright, sharp, freshly struck, covered with beautiful original mint luster. But time changes everything. After years of circulation, coins slowly begin showing their history. Tiny scratches appear. The brilliant shine fades. Washington's portrait becomes smoother. The lettering slowly loses its sharp appearance. The eagle on the reverse experiences the very same transformation. Every mark tells another chapter of the coin's journey. Most 1991 quarters experienced exactly that fate. They spent decades circulating through everyday commerce. They became worn. Scratched. Dropped, forgotten. And eventually blended into ordinary pocket change. Yet not every quarter followed the same path. Some remained protected from the very beginning. Perhaps someone placed them inside a coin album. Maybe they stayed inside unopened bankrolls for years. Some rested quietly inside family collections that remained untouched for decades. Those carefully preserved examples still display much of the beauty they had on the day they left. The mint. Collectors immediately notice the difference. Original mint luster reflects beautifully beneath bright light. The lettering appears crisp. Washington's portrait remains sharp. The rim looks complete and well-defined. Those qualities make collectors stop and take a much closer look. But preservation alone isn't what makes searching for 1991 quarters exciting. The real mystery begins inside the United States Mint itself. Every day, enormous presses struck thousands upon thousands of quarters. The process was incredibly fast. Powerful steel dies pressed tremendous force onto each blank placket. Everything was carefully designed for precision. Yet even the world's most advanced manufacturing systems are never completely perfect. Dies gradually wear. Small cracks begin forming. Grease occasionally fills tiny areas inside the design. Machines require adjustment. Blank plankets sometimes move slightly before being struck. Most of these events last only moments. Yet those brief moments sometimes create coins that differ from millions of others. Those differences fascinate collectors. Every unusual characteristic tells a story, not of damage, but of the minting process itself. That is why experienced collectors inspect every 1991 quarter carefully. They examine the date. They study the mint mark. They inspect liberty. They look closely at In God We Trust. They compare one coin with another, searching for tiny details that most people never notice. Sometimes they find nothing unusual. Sometimes one small detail changes everything. And that possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching through thousands of ordinary quarters every single year. Because somewhere inside an old coin jar, a forgotten piggy bank, a dusty collection, or even the loose change sitting in your own pocket, another fascinating 1991 Washington quarter could still be waiting to be discovered. Another fascinating 1991 Washington quarter could still be waiting to be discovered. That single thought has inspired collectors for decades. Every time they receive change at a store, every time they open a roll of quarters from the bank, and every time they search through an old family collection, they know there's always a chance of finding something extraordinary hiding among ordinary coins. Imagine walking into your local bank on a quiet afternoon. You ask the teller if they have any custom-wrapped rolls of quarters. A few minutes later, several rolls are placed on the counter. To everyone else in the bank, they're simply rolls of change. To a collector, they're unopened treasure chests. You take them home, place them carefully on the table. Turn on a bright light, and slowly begin opening the first roll. Quarter after quarter passes beneath your eyes. Most are heavily worn. Some have scratches from years of circulation. Others have dark toning from decades of use. Then suddenly, a bright 1991 Washington quarter appears. Immediately, it catches your attention. Its surface reflects the light differently. The lettering seems sharper. Washington's portrait appears stronger. The overall eye appeal is noticeably better than the surrounding coins. You don't celebrate immediately. Instead, you begin investigating. Experienced collectors never assume. They verify. The first thing they inspect is the strike quality. Every Washington quarter begins as a blank metal disc called a placket. Inside the United States Mint, enormous presses force hardened steel dies into that blank with tremendous pressure. When everything works perfectly, every detail transfers sharply onto the coin. But dies don't remain perfect forever. After striking hundreds of thousands of coins, they slowly begin wearing. Tiny differences appear. Some coins receive exceptionally sharp strikes. Others appear slightly softer. These small differences become surprisingly important when collectors compare high-grade examples. Next comes the lettering. The words Liberty and In God We Trust deserve careful attention. Every letter should appear bold and well-defined. Collectors slowly rotate the coin beneath a bright white light, searching for anything unusual. Sometimes a tiny die crack becomes visible. Other times, a small die chip appears as a raised bump on the surface. These aren't signs of damage. They're fingerprints left behind by the dies that produced the coin. Every die tells its own story. As it ages. As it wears. Every coin it strikes preserves another chapter of that history. Collectors also examine the rim. A complete, evenly formed rim usually indicates a normal strike. If anything appears unusual, they compare it with another 1991 quarter. Comparison is one of the most valuable skills in coin collecting. A detail that seems ordinary on one coin may appear completely different when placed beside another example. That is exactly why experienced collectors rarely study only one coin at a time. The reverse side deserves equal attention. The eagle, its feathers, the arrows, the olive branches. Every tiny design element reveals how well the coin was struck. Coins displaying strong details on both the obverse and reverse naturally attract more collector interest. Another habit shared by experienced collectors is weighing their coins. A standard-clad Washington quarter weighs approximately 5.67 grams. A small digital scale often becomes an essential tool. During large coin searches, if one coin weighs noticeably Differently than expected, collectors immediately investigate further. Although unusual weight doesn't automatically mean a coin is valuable, it certainly deserves closer examination. The longer someone collects coins, the more these habits become second nature. Checking the date, looking at the mint mark, inspecting the strike, examining the surfaces. Comparing multiple examples. What once seemed complicated eventually becomes routine. That experience cannot be learned overnight. It develops slowly, one discovery at a time, one lesson after another. One coin after another, and then one ordinary afternoon. Everything changes, because sometimes the coin everyone else overlooked becomes the coin every collector wants. Because sometimes the coin everyone else overlooked becomes the coin every collector wants. That is the true excitement of coin collecting. You never know when an ordinary moment will become an unforgettable discovery. Imagine arriving home after a long day. You empty your pockets onto the kitchen table. Keys, receipts, a few dollar bills, and several quarters. Normally, you would put them into a jar without another thought. But today is different. You remember everything you've learned about the 1991 Washington quarter. You pick one up, hold it beneath a bright light, slowly rotate it between your fingers. Immediately, you notice something unusual. The surfaces still display much of their original mint luster. Washington's portrait remains remarkably sharp. The lettering is bold and complete, even after more than 30 years. The coin appears far better preserved than most examples you have seen. Curiosity takes over. You compare it with another 1991 quarter, then another. The differences become even more obvious. One coin has clearly spent decades traveling through everyday circulation. The other appears to have been protected almost from the day it left the United States Mint. Moments like these remind collectors why they continue searching year after year. Every coin has a journey. Some traveled through thousands of stores. Some crossed the country inside cash registers, vending machines, and banks. Others remained forgotten inside old jars, desk drawers, piggy banks, and family collections. No one knows where a coin has been. That mystery becomes part of its story. Experienced collectors understand that every search teaches something valuable. Sometimes they discover an unusually preserved coin. Sometimes they learn how to recognize subtle strike differences. Sometimes they simply improve their ability to notice details that most people completely overlook. Knowledge grows one coin at a time. Patience becomes your greatest tool. The more you study, the more you notice. The more you notice, the more exciting every search becomes. That is why millions of people continue enjoying this hobby today. Not because every coin is rare, not because every coin is worth a fortune, but because every coin carries a piece of American history. Every scratch reflects a journey. Every mark represents another chapter. Every preserved surface reminds us how the coin looked the day it first entered circulation. That history cannot be recreated. It can only be discovered. Before you spend another quarter, make one simple habit part of your daily routine. Check the date. Look at the mint mark. Study the condition. Examine the lettering. Inspect the rim. Compare it with another example whenever possible. Those extra few seconds may seem small, but one day, they could lead to a discovery you'll never forget. Perhaps the next remarkable 1991 Washington quarter is already sitting inside your wallet. Perhaps it's hiding in an old coffee can filled with loose change. Perhaps it's waiting inside a bankroll you'll open tomorrow. The only way to know is to look. Thank you for spending time with us today on Hidden Coin Digest. If you enjoy discovering hidden treasures, learning about Washington quarters, exploring fascinating minting stories, and improving your coin collecting knowledge, then you're in exactly the right place. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join the Hidden Coin Digest community. because every new video could help you discover the next hidden treasure before anyone else does. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with another coin enthusiast. And tell us in the comments, what's the most interesting quarter you've ever found in your pocket change? Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, keep checking every coin. And remember, the next quarter you receive could be the one that changes the way you look at pocket change forever. See you in the next Hidden Coin Digest video.